foster that? How can you make your company fluent in AI and in data? That's the topic of our highlight of the day, of the panel discussion. And I'm very happy to hand over the moderation to Swantje Kowarsch. She's the Managing Director at Diconium for Data and AI. Welcome.
Thank you, Zach. And welcome to the last panel talk. So I see that the energy is maybe a little bit lower than in the morning, but I hope it was exciting up to now. And at the end of our official part, we want to focus on a very important topic. Tomorrow's workforce speaks AI. Will your company be fluent? And maybe as a last question to you, we had the question already, who is really working with AI or Gen AI already with tools? But maybe as a last question, who is working with AI tools on a daily basis? Yeah, so that's at least 1/3 of the audience. And we want to discuss how organizations can cultivate AI literacy across their workforce to effectively navigate the AI implementation. And that's not only regarding tools and processes, but also in terms of evolving regulatory frameworks, as we have heard from the TÜV colleagues in the morning. As AI is transforming how business operates, of course, there is a huge opportunity to improve processes and also to drive innovation. But based on a Bitkom research, more than 70% of companies need help in dealing with the EU AI Act. And as AI becomes more integrated into daily business operations, the need for AI literacy among the employees grows every day. So it's not just about learning the technologies, but also to learn how AI plays a central role in driving the business success in the future. And why is it important now? We heard in the morning that the provisions of the AI Act will come into force gradually over the period of the next 3 years. And one of the first obligations of the AI Act to become applicable next year is the principle of AI literacy. And this principle requires providers and deployers to take measures to ensure that persons dealing with AI systems have sufficient skills, sufficient knowledge to make informed use of AI systems. And to be honest, many companies are not yet aware of this. But let me introduce our experts first to explore the different perspectives on how to tackle this challenge. And I want to start with Slava Pantykin, Chief Revenue Officer at lembitech with more than 20 years of experience in digital transformation. He's making sure that the business is stable and profitable, so you will argue from a business perspective.
Thank you so much for the presentation.
And then we have Stephen Lemm. So Stephen, you are AI and data strategist, expert at Ratepay with more than 20 years of experience in creating data and AI-powered solutions, especially in e-commerce, edtech, and fintech. And typically, you are acting as the missing link that mediates between business and tech. Is it right?
Thanks for having me.
Okay. And then we have David Blumenthal-Barby, Senior Principal AI at Diconium, with a background in computer science and philosophy, having more than 6 years of experience in computer vision and machine learning at the Fraunhofer Institute, and working in several industries since 2014. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
So let's start by defining AI literacy, and maybe what does AI literacy mean to you, and what connections do you have in your environment? Maybe we can start with you, Slava.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting to this great event. It's really a nice place where nice brains and nice people combine, together with great ideas. So regarding the AI literacy, it would mean for me, as I'm saying always, like 3 T's principle. like triage the thing, then trust or not it, and then just advise whether this is true to life or not. For triaging thing, I mean, you need to check how the data is aggregated, whether you not use any kind of, let's say, sources that are irrelevant, right? That would intersect with some policies and so on. Mm-hmm. So with trust, it means that this data that you have like collected, aggregated, is really the one that you need. It's not kind of extrapolated, it's not simulated, it's the real data you can check, verify, and analyze, and get it as a valid one. But true to life would mean kind of, let's call it more the aspect of whether this is applicable for the situation that you need it to. Because there are many examples when companies aggregate something and then they try to use it, but it looks useless. So that's kind of literacy that is in my understanding. I'm giving the word to the next person, I think, also.
I think we do have an overlap in defining AI literacy. The way I look at it, also 3 letters, interestingly. Yeah? So for me, it's UIL, understand, interact, and leverage. So you should really have the person should have the ability to understand AI, to interact with it, and to leverage it in a given business context, and also to a degree that is very specific to their individual roles. Yeah? So that's why I think AI literacy is not a one-fits-all approach. Yeah? So I think it's really needs to differentiate between the role of the different person. And when I talk about understanding, so it's really having at least a basic understanding of the terminology, because you need to collaborate. AI is a cross-functional collaboration. People need to be able to talk to each other. So that's why you should ideally all speak the same language. People need to know what is an algorithm, what actually is AI. AI is such a wide field. So this is one part. People should also understand the basic concept of uncertainty, because AI comes with errors. People need to be aware of this. When it comes to the interaction, so this is really this critical assessment of the output of an AI. People need to do sanity checks, validate, does it make sense at all, what an AI outputted. On the other hand, when it comes then to leveraging things, this is understanding what an AI can do and what it cannot do, but also understanding or asking these basic questions, what are alternatives to applying an AI? And not everything, I think we heard it also here today, that you shouldn't use the biggest hammer in your toolbox if it's just a very tiny nail. So this is also for me part of this leveraging. And from the business side, people need to be able to clearly formulate business goals and performance expectations. This is all part of what I would consider AI literacy. So it's a complex topic, but that's why it's also a complex answer.
And it's also context and role related, you would say. Okay. David, what is AI literacy to you?
I think the key things have been said, really, but there is this quote by the British science fiction author Clarke, like, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and this is not how we should treat AI, right? It's a tool like a saw, and a saw has some places where you shouldn't put your finger, otherwise you hurt yourself, right? And this, I think we really need to get down a little bit from being overhyped, from being overawed. We also need to adjust expectations a little bit. We need to learn what works. Also management, being promised efficiency gains by 40% by some LinkedIn post is probably not helpful if you haven't experimented on it, if you do not really know whether these are realistic. Mm-hmm. So we need a realistic sort of tool-based view on AI and not a magic-based view on AI.
Okay, thank you. But from your experience, maybe what are some of the biggest challenges that organizations face when it comes to AI literacy? What do you think?
So I think especially with Gen AI, knowing the limitations is really, really tricky, right? Mm-hmm. Because it does feel a little bit like magic sometimes, especially if you are used to, I don't know, the chatbots of the olden days and now compared to a current ChatGPT. How can this be not magic? And even us as experts, even in scientific research, right? Tracking exactly the boundaries of where is it good, where is it not good? This is incredibly tricky. And I think this is one of the biggest challenges in literacy. And we need realism, and we also need experimentation for this. So I think AI is incredibly hard to teach via a PowerPoint, via a video course. You need people to play around with it in a safe environment. You need people to experience it, and especially to also experience the limits.
I think there's one more dimension to it. So I think companies are really struggling with defining what is AI literacy, and if you don't know what you want to achieve with it, it's really hard to set up any program or to train your staff. Yeah, this is for me also one of the large obstacles. The other, and maybe this is, I would also like to do this as a question to the audience. You're all working at different companies. So how many of your or who in the audience would say he's working in a company who managed the topic of data literacy? Yeah, so anyone raising his hand who is saying, oh, I'm working in a company, they really mastered this. And I think this is also one of the biggest obstacles, because AI literacy for me is just an extension of data literacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we haven't mastered the first level, how can we expect companies to master the second level? So this is where the challenge starts, I would say.
I see here also 3 levels of like challenges, practical, theoretical, when you need to understand more like about how the system works, what are the limitations, what you can use, what you cannot, how you can implement it to your current needs. But I would vote for ethical part as the most critical one, because, nobody likes when some automated emails are coming or, some robot is responding to you back. You need to simulate kind of man-related behavior, right? So it's the most critical thing, because everyone tries to get the custom approach. And exactly this would mean that you need to find this seamless border. So that's my vision here.
So that's maybe a good bridge to you, Stephen. So you are working in a more regulated industry. What are maybe additional challenges?
When I started at Ratepay 4 years ago, I also thought, oh wow, a regulated environment. This is really hard to do things to drive innovation. Over the time I learned, well, that's also a very great opportunity, because all of these topics, how to deal with biases, how to deal with algorithmic fairness, are things that we had to consider, let's say, due to the regulatory frameworks. And it is a big opportunity. One thing, for instance, that is required, you have to have a good register of your algorithms and what is the risk attached to your business. Yeah, something also in the banking industry, it's quite common over the last decades that they have something. They have also mechanisms how to deal with that. And this is something where every business who understands there is a risk when you're dealing with AI could also learn from. And I'm actually start to more and more embrace these regulatory frameworks, because it sets clear boundaries. It helps you to manage this complexity. Of course, it's limit somehow the freedom, but on the other hand, it helps by setting clear
But how are you organizing then to manage the regulatory frameworks and also the training you need maybe in your organization? Is there any training program inside of Ratepay?
We do not have an explicit training program. So far, we're focusing a lot of the people who are building the algorithms, so on the data scientist. Luckily, we're also part of a bigger group, of the Nexi group, which also provides us some resources to capture the complicated things. When it comes to the European AI Act, we get support from the mother company. Otherwise, it's really hard for medium-sized company to have the sufficient resources to address all the things that might be required.
So how many people are dealing with the topic of AI in your company?
I mean, with the data science team, I would say it's rather small. It's about 10 people. But if you consider AI doesn't exist in isolation. Yeah, what we're doing is mainly managing our payment risk, the risk of credit defaults, fraud risk. But there are people who are operating this system, and of course, they also need to have a good understanding of what does it mean to deal with these AI tools. And any algorithm is as good as the data that goes into it, which means every engineer, every backend engineer should be aware of what is the value of producing great data. Yeah. So if you take the wider context, I would say everyone in the company is working on AI, maybe more implicitly, but so explicitly it's about 10 people.
Okay. I would totally agree to the saying or to the observation that the AI literacy is closely linked to the data literacy or the maturity level in the company. So Slava or David, do you have other practical steps how organizations can develop into more AI literacy or data and AI literacy? Maybe Slava, you first.
So I'll see it more from the perspective of like how people should treat, let's say, literacy within the company. It always starts with some training exercises. You train your own teams how to use, of course, to simplify their life. You train your clients, because sometimes clients, they are not really technically perfect, right? You need to get the same language speaking with them, and it's kind of alignment between your team, like technical one, and the customer related thing. So, and it's also kind of wide usage of tools. On your own example, when you show that some, like, let's imagine presentation or things can be automated, optimized using AI, that's a great way how you can adopt these new changes to your company.
Do you have some concrete examples in mind from your own organization?
Well, we do a lot with like accounting, document processing, when we use AI to aggregate the data together to get some analytics and just represent them in more, I would say, friendly or transparent manner when we show them on the screen and just say, hey, this is like AI-based thing. And it starts being used by many other departments, not just like engineering part, but also financial department, like HR department, and so on.
Okay.
And keeping the flag, as the first ones to use.
So David, do you have some more practical tips, or where should organizations start?
So I think there's big leverage in just building the tools right and getting a good user experience when rolling out AI tools, right? So we speak a lot about having humans in the loop in order to be safe and compliant with certain AI systems. So if you want to have a human in the loop, really incentivize the human to, let's say, actually check the AI output to do the right thing. Don't incentivize them to just always click yes because he's faster, right? I think there's a lot to be gained in building the tools in a good way to interact. And then together with good training, with good literacy, I think it's good. Yeah, it's easier to get the efficiency gain, but also to stay compliant.
I think there's one thing when it comes to where to start. And this is, you have to be clear what you really want to achieve. Yeah. You should start with the why. The goal shouldn't be that everyone in the company becomes a data scientist. Yeah, clearly not the goal. If you take this differentiated view on, okay, what does it require for a senior manager to be AI literate? What does it require for someone who is just using it? And what is required if someone's supposed to build things? You would immediately come up with completely different answers to what you need to train them. And once you have identified what is the problem that you want to solve with creating this AI literacy, then you can start with, okay, let's do a gap analysis, set up several training programs, and get things started and iterate. Yeah.
So we've also heard from Alexander that AI tools evolve rapidly, exponentially. So how can organizations really catch up with the AI knowledge or constantly refresh their knowledge? Is it just by using those tools by themselves and keeping up with the pace, or?
To be honest, even I have difficulties catching up with what's currently going on in the market. So I think one of the answers to this might be you have to create a culture or cultural mindset in this company, especially also a mindset of innovation and continuous learning and innovation. If this becomes part of your company's DNA, people stay automatically close to what's going on in the market and see, oh, is this something that we could one way or the other adopt to it? I think it's nothing that you can really force people. Please read every, second week a newsletter here or there. I think this is nothing that works. It must be intrinsic to the people, and that's why you should really focus on company culture. This will help you most.
But it's really hard to scale the knowledge and to have this intrinsic motivation rolled out in the whole organization, right?
Yeah, but if people understand how AI or how data or how something can help them, then they have this intrinsic motivation, learn about it, inform themselves. So then you don't have to enforce these things.
I think the organization should also, use it widely, initially saying that it's a new reality and we need to live in that.
Yeah.
And it means that we don't need to say yes or no. It's already yes. We just need to define the method of how to use that more effectively. It's the first key thing. And the second would be that, maybe to start that doing not from the current existing processes, but from the processes that might happen in advance. Like, let's imagine, I think there are many students in this auditory. So, and you can start not from the existing workforce, but with your new future workforce. So having some university programs, graduating some students, getting them certified, it also gives you kind of chance to see bright, shiny minds, right? And to select them and to start early adoption of this thing. So the person who would join your company would be already kind of, taking your flag and getting literacy as it is.
Do you think this truly believe? Do you truly believe this works? Shifting the question to university, I think universities do have problems in teaching stuff that is, let's say, not 10 years old. So if you pose the question of AI literacy to them,
I can say that universities, they usually start teaching from the theoretical part, but you give here more kind of practical injection, and you show them how it might work with all the cons and pros. And you explain and you make them, feel in the same way as you. So they get already kind of prepared. Prerequisites, they are checked. So you get the ideal worker for you. And we do that in our company.
Maybe we can hear some comments about that later from the students. Do you want?
Maybe one thing to add. So what I would really advise companies to is also like take a breath, stop reading social media, better, roll out 1 or 2 AI technologies really well to most efficient use by a broad user base in your company, then always try to have the 5 lightest and greatest tools, which probably are not that great anyway. So I think we really live in a hype cycle still. We've seen this great Gartner diagram. I would put the AI hype still a little bit further up than the dot we saw on the slide today. And it's not helping. It's massively oversold. It's massively overhyped. So rather pick 1 or 2 really good use cases, do them well, and take a breath about all the other ones.
Yeah, and set good AI governance next to it. So to avoid that things go too wild in your company, you have to have a handle on the development.
So maybe one last question before we maybe allow 1 or 2 more questions out of the audience. So how are you preparing for the upcoming AI Act? Are there certain roles inside of your organization, or is it something that will be postponed up there is a certain penalty?
I can say that we try to transform our business, not just, let's say, providing, for example, some solutions in terms of the digital thing, but also be kind of promoters of AI. Means that we transform that into, let's call it, training program set also for the people who are not so confident or familiar. So, and that's a great idea because I think it's another revenue increase like direction, everybody could do, the people who are like, experts in this area, because the more we have people like trained, the easier the process between counterparties would go. It was like Alex talked about the systems, LLMs that would be interacting one with another. So let's imagine these LLMs are also experts. I mean, they need to be connected one with another to build something bigger, right? And smarter. So that's the idea, what we try to do.
Yeah, we definitely started with having a clear catalog or a register of what are all the AI applications that we do have. Then we assess them into the, let's say, 3 categories. We don't use the first category. We just start with the
High risk.
high risk. So we are not working in the forbidden space. And then focus on these, and really try to do a proper assessment. And here, as mentioned before, we also get support from the compliance teams, from our mother company. This is definitely where we start. And in parallel, setting up an AI governance policy framework, so to help the people to understand and create the awareness that not everything that you could potentially do, you should do.
Thank you. So David, do you have something to add regarding implementation of AI Act in your work?
At our company where we both work, we're eagerly awaiting the AI Act because we would like to sell our expertise in safe and explainable AI. But yeah, other than that, what every company is doing, like looking what we're running, assessing which risk it is, doing our homework.
Okay, so before we will summarize our panel talk, so is there maybe time for one question, Zach? Yeah? Okay.
Raise your hand, be daring, your opportunity. Last for today to ask any questions. Anybody? No.
Everybody's tired, looking for drinks. Oh, there's one hand.
One hand, wonderful.
Thank you, that was rapidly. My question mainly addresses what David Blumenthal said. We once also saw at the very beginning in one keynote this very nice hype cycle graph. Actually, 2 questions. First, do you think we passed already the maximum of the hype? And second, what could actually lead to breaking the hype cycle? So does something need to crack down? Do we need a catastrophe? Because the expectations are very, very exaggerated in my view also. So I agree to you. Yeah, these 2 questions actually. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, great question. So I think where we are in the hype cycle depends on the role of the people you ask. So the more tech you go, the more further down you are. The more sort of corporate and management you go, the higher up you are still. It's quite interesting in the investment space. If you look into, I don't know, VC kind of blogs and YouTube, they're already speculating on the bubble in some places. So it really depends on the level where we are. And of course, I mean, the hype cycle, it's a simplification, right? For certain applications, we're definitely going down. For others, we're still going up.
I think I would slightly disagree, but only slightly. I think also how this hype cycle looks like, for me, it's an overlay of 2 cycles. You have the tech guys who are more and more adapting to it. So I think this is still on the rise. They better understand what they can do and what they maybe also not can do with it, but are still getting more and more excited to find out, hey, how can we manage, or how can we bring these things into production? While on the management side, it's really, oh, I'm getting more and more disappointed. I already thought last week we solved all the problems and we haven't even understood what are all the problems that we could solve. So I think the management expectations were much higher, and they are rather behind the peak. But while technologists or people working with technology are still, for them, it's still they're excited in building stuff and making it happen.
Okay, so we're running out of time, and I see Zach giving me signs. So maybe to just summarize what we discussed in our panel talk. So I think the biggest challenge that you have mentioned is to really keep up with the pace, having intrinsic motivation to scale the knowledge across the organization. And maybe the best strategy is to create the right space to experiment with AI by yourself. As highlighted by you, Stephen, I think that AI literacy is closely connected to data literacy and the data maturity level in organizations. And maybe as a final comment on that, why now? So it's really important that AI literacy is one of the strategic topics that needs to be implemented before the go live and the use of AI solutions. And that's, I think, also important in regards of the upcoming AI Act starting next year. So thank you very much for the discussion and being our guests today. And then I would like to hand over to you, Zach, for the closing.
Thanks a lot for the wonderful moderation, Swantje.